discussion. It's a critically important discussion that we're having because, and the timing couldn't be better because of the realignments that's taking place in college sports. We're reading about the Pac-10 adding a couple members, and Syracuse and Pittsburgh going from the Big East to the ACC, Texas A&M leaving the Big 12, moving to the SEC. If you wonder about what's driving these sort of machinations, it's not travel considerations for the student athletes. It's not about academics. It's about schools attempting to exercise dominion and control over their financial destiny with respect to these television contracts. That's all it's about. So TCU, if you're a parent in Texas and your kid went to TCU and they left Texas and their normal schedule of Baylor and Texas A&M and other schools, they don't care. They join the Big East. They don't care that the parents can't go to Syracuse or can't St. John's. They don't care. It's about the TV contract, about the automatic bid. So my thinking is that it is now a moral crisis. Everett mentioned that when the SEC signed their television deal, it was $1 billion deal. Jaws dropped in the sports world. A year and a half ago, ACC signed a $1.6 billion deal. Big Ten has their own network. About 3 months ago, the Pac-10 signed a $3 billion deal. Those numbers are breathtaking and they're important because when you consider where the money where it goes, 90% of that money is distributed back to the member institutions. The commissioner of those conferences collects the checks and then distributes that money to the member institutions in that conference. And that money goes to build libraries, build bigger stadiums, put up lights, fund scholarships, and through Title IX, finance athletic scholarships of sports where there's very little African American participation. Fencing, field hockey, swimming. In a very real sense, the two revenue generating sports, 45% of football players in college are African American, over 50% of the basketball players are African American. In a very real sense, African American men are subsidizing the higher education of non-African American student athletes. They're subsidizing the athletic departments. So what this discussion is important is to raise awareness of the broader sort of economic context that this is occurring in. Our conference, the SIAC, we're approaching our 100th anniversary, 13 black colleges. What I found most important about what our schools is where they're located. The poverty rate in this country is 15%. It's gone from 13.2% to 15.1%. I pulled the census data of the communities where every one of our schools was located. Fort Valley, Georgia, Albany, Georgia, Tuskegee, Alabama, Morehouse College in the Vine City section of Atlanta. 40% poverty in Tuskegee. 37.7% poverty in Fort Valley. 30% poverty in Albany, Georgia. So what are our schools doing in those communities? They're providing jobs. Only 2.5% of the people living below poverty have jobs. 97.5% are unemployed. So what are our schools doing? Providing jobs. The more education you get, the more money you make. It's a fact that the average family of four, the average household with a college degree makes $98,000. That's according to the U.S. Census. So our schools are literally in the poorest in our conference, rural communities, providing educational opportunities and providing employment opportunities, and they're on the front line of fighting poverty. So I would love, now mind you, when the ACC Commissioner got a check for $1.6 billion, I got a letter from ESPN that they're going to terminate our contract. Our contract was terminated by ESPN. Because as they expanded their television rights, they pushed us off the TV grid, they pushed the CIAA off the grid, they reduced the MEAC down from 10 games to 4, the SWAC. We'll be off the grid soon. So it burns me up to see this economic imbalance reaching the point where it's now a moral crisis. So I think, to answer the question and we close, we have to frame it as a moral issue. It is a moral issue When you send your kids off to PWI institutions, you're literally, in many instances, not all, but in many instances, you're sending them to a grist mill. They're grain that's ground down to flour in a grist mill. Thank you.
So Greg, earlier you said that what you really need most to compete is, you say
Scholarships.
you need scholarship money. No, okay, that's what you need.
Scholarships and facilities.
All right, so, all right.
Scholarships and better facilities.
All right. That's what NSA will do. Bring that money, give it back to the colleges in the form of scholarships, and give them money to build facilities and whatnot. That's what's at stake. Very good. Curtis.
Yeah, I just want to, since I'm always the one to close.